Hey guys, Brian back with you. Thanks for joining again on Yak's online version, edition 2 or episode 2, I guess. Hopefully, you got something helpful out of our lesson from last week, just really addressing the COVID-19 epidemic that we're going through. Hopefully, everyone is safe and healthy and hasn't had to interact as far as the virus goes itself. But just continue to be smart, for the next several weeks. Keep doing what we're supposed to do. Use common sense, like we talked about last week. But again, hopefully everybody's safe. Hopefully everybody's healthy, and definitely appreciate you guys joining us again this week. I wanted to get back to our lesson that we've been going through with our Yaks class for the last couple of months, and that is on boundaries. Every relationship that we have, whether it be family, friends, co-workers, neighbors, roommates, whatever the relationship is, there has to be a boundary for that relationship. And obviously it's going to change based on what that relationship is. And we've been going through this book called Boundaries. If you've never seen this book, never heard of this book, I highly recommend ordering a copy. Still get it off Amazon. I doubt anybody wants to go to the bookstore right now for obvious reasons. But get a copy off of Amazon. You're probably still going to have some time over the next few weeks to read it and really take heart the relationships that you have in your life and where you might already have boundary problems. Maybe there's already issues that need to be resolved. But as you have new relationships going forward, maybe decide today that you're going to establish boundaries in these different areas and these different relationships so that it doesn't cause problems in the future. We've been going through this book for a couple months, like I said, and really trying to identify problem areas in our lives already. Had a lot of great discussion in our class, just with different conflicts that we've come across. How do you resolve those conflicts? Just really understanding the need for boundaries. Again, like I said, in every relationship that you're in, you need boundaries. But sometimes we need help understanding what those boundaries should be, where those boundaries need to be set. And ultimately, only God can give us those answers. But you've got to have your relationship with God in the right place so that He can guide and direct you, and you can hear what He's trying to tell you and how He's trying to guide you in each of those areas. So let's take a quick minute to pray and open up today's lesson with a word of prayer, and then we'll jump into our lesson on boundaries. So Father, we love you and just so grateful for how you're working in our midst, even though we're not meeting at the facility of Maranatha Baptist Church. It's such a blessing and privilege to still be able to meet and worship together through online. Father, I pray that you will bless our time this morning. Again, guide and direct us as we need to set boundaries in relationships. And today we're talking specifically about boundaries with our family. Guide and direct us in each relationship with our parents, with our siblings, with extended family. God, show us where we need to set boundaries. Show us how to fix problems that may be already implemented or already in place, and just guide us through each of these situations and give us wisdom as we deal with these relationships. Father, I pray that you'll just continue to work in our midst as well through COVID-19. Just again, just provide safety. I believe everyone in our Yak group has been safe from the virus, and just thank you so much for that. I pray that you'll just continue to provide that protection for the Yaks group, but also for Maranatha, but for our community, the state of Arizona. I know we've not been hit too hard compared to a lot of other states. I just thank you again for that, and I pray that you'll just continue to keep your hand of protection on us. Help us to be smart and use wisdom and diligence as we go about our day-to-day lives. We love you and look forward to just some time together now this morning. In our pray, amen. All right, like I said, we are going to be talking about boundaries within our families today. And I want to start off just kind of giving some signs or symptoms of where you might have boundary problems within your family. The first one that the book mentions, it just titled it, Catching the Virus. One sure sign of a boundary problem is when your relationship with one person has the power to affect your relationship with others. You're giving that one person way too much power in your life. I see that regularly in my family. And again, I know most people watching this probably aren't married, but I am. And fortunately, my wife and I, we have a perfect relationship. We don't ever argue, fight, anything like that. But on occasion, sometimes I'll get upset for whatever reason. Always my fault, of course. I love you, Kath, and don't forget I said that. But it's easy for us, my wife and I both, when we're upset with each other for anything, to maybe take it out on our kids. Something that the kids do, we're very short with them. We get angry with them. We get upset with them for something. And it's not because they did something big. It's not because they did something that we should have really been upset about. But we're upset with them over here, and it's affecting our relationship with everybody else over here. That's step number one. If that's happening in your life, and honestly, that probably happens with most of us, that's a boundary problem. Another one that, again, it applies a lot within a marriage, but playing second fiddle. Within marriage, you need to set clear boundaries with your family. Many marriages struggle because one person fails to set clear boundaries with their family, and the spouse and the children get the leftovers. Genesis 2, verse 24 states, "Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh." I know when Kathy and I first got married, it was hard for Kathy to come to me when she had a problem, when there were issues, when there were needs, when she had concerns. She spent 20 plus years going to her dad, and her dad would help her take care of problems, help her talk through problems, resolve problems, give her guidance and direction. And I struggled with that a little bit when we were first married. You know, she would have a problem with something, and I come home from work or whatever, and she's on the phone with her dad discussing issues. And I had to talk to her a couple times about it. Like, hey, I want you to come to me. You know, now that we're married, that's my responsibility to take that place. So that was definitely something that she had to work on. But the flip side of that, just for future reference, for those of you who aren't married yet, especially husbands that might struggle with this, if your wife doesn't want to let go, it's going to put you on the spot. There are some things that I had to work on. I had to be wise in my dealings with her. I had to read more scripture. I had to be in tune with God, because when she had a problem, now I want her to come to me. I've got to be in a position where I can lead her and guide and direct her as well. So it put a lot more pressure on me, and just be ready for that. I think this specific area is something that a lot of ladies deal with, you know, stepping away from mom or dad, and more so than the husband probably will. But again, I think where the husband would struggle with is being prepared to deal with that. You want that responsibility, make sure you're ready for it. Anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. That's a marriage conference thing. Not to get too much into that, but playing second fiddle, make sure your family, your spouse, your kids aren't playing second fiddle to your parents, to your siblings. Your spouse and your kids are your primary responsibility now. Another symptom is, may I have my allowance, please? That's what the book titles it. Are you an adult financially, or do your parents still support you? Many young adults get into financial problems because of irresponsibility. Just maybe you have spending habit problems. Maybe it's something serious like drug or alcohol issues. Or maybe it's just a simple thing of, I haven't found my niche syndrome. Parents should not be funding your failures or lack of responsibilities, hoping it might be better next time. They're only crippling your ability to be independent as an adult. You must learn to live within your own means and pay for your own failures. If you're relying on your parents financially and you're an adult, there's a boundary problem. And don't take that to mean you can never ask your parents for help. You can never rely on your parents for anything when it comes to money. We do have some folks in our class that, for whatever reason, are relying on parents right now. They don't have a job. There's one individual who just moved here from out of state. He's living at home and he's looking for work. Obviously, the last few weeks has really hurt that. But that's one situation. Well, yeah, you can live off of your parents still. That's not a problem. But if you've got a job and you've started your career and financially you should be independent, but you're not, that's a boundary problem. Another step in this, kind of similar, but not so much on the financial side, but mom, where are my socks? Maybe you're financially independent, but you rely on your family to perform certain life management functions. You haven't emotionally left home yet. Your relationship might seem great with your family, but how does this impact other relationships, especially with the opposite sex? What do your long-term finances look like? Planning for the future. Those are some areas that this could come into play. Maybe it's not you're depending on them to make your car payment or to pay your insurance or things like that. but maybe you still go home and your mom does your laundry for you. We talked about that in class a few weeks ago. There's a lot of young adults who don't know how to do laundry. As crazy as it sounds, that's just the fact. If you're relying on your family, on your mom, on your dad for just basic life functions that you should be responsible for, that's a boundary problem. Another one, this is a little bit more deeper, I think, for a lot of us. Might take a little bit more to really self-reflect on it, but three's a crowd. The book calls this triangulation. Basically, person A is upset at person B, so naturally they go talk to person C. Person B senses tension between them and person A, so again, naturally, they go talk to person C. Triangulation. It's the failure to resolve a conflict between two people and the pulling in of a third to take sides. The third person has no business in the conflict, but is used for comfort or maybe validation by the ones who are afraid to confront each other. This is how conflict persists. People don't change and enemies are made unnecessarily. Again, the Bible talks a lot about confrontation and how to deal with it when you have a problem with people. The verse one I wrote down, Proverbs 28, verse 23. He that rebuketh the man afterwards shall find more favor than he that flattereth with the tongue. And I put in parentheses, constructive criticism. We all need constructive criticism. If you can't take constructive criticism, that's again another issue, but that's a pride issue. You want people in your lives who are going to help you grow, who are going to help you be a better person. And you also need to be that person for them. You need to help them grow. You need to help them learn from mistakes. Don't just continue to lift them up and make them feel good when you know they're doing something that's not right. Matthew 5, verses 23 and 24. Therefore, if thou bring thy gift to the altar, and thou rememberest that thy brother hath aught against thee, leave there thy gift before the altar, and go thy way. First be reconciled to thy brother, and then come and offer thy gift. If you have a problem with somebody in your life, a family member, or anyone else for that matter, if you have a problem, if there's bitterness in your heart towards them, your relationship with God is not going to be in the right place. What this verse is saying is go resolve that conflict with whoever it is, then come back and make your relationship right with God, and you can move forward, continue making your offering to God. Another verse that talks about this, Matthew 18, verse 15. Moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee, go and tell him his fault between thee and him alone. If he shall hear thee, thou hast gained thy brother. The Bible is very clear. When there's a problem, it's your responsibility to go to that person individually and deal with it one-on-one. And that passage, Matthew 18, there's more verses that talk about conflict beyond the one-on-one conversation. But that's step one. You shouldn't be bringing in person C to help lift you up, to make you feel better, to try to take your side. It has nothing to do with them. Deal with the problem, and then we can move on. It's going to strengthen your relationship. Never say something to person C about person B if you don't plan on saying that to person B directly. Hopefully I didn't confuse anybody with that, but if you're not going to say something to the person you have a fault with, don't go say something to anybody else about it. It's just that simple. So that's another problem, triangulation. And again, we talked about that in class some. It's a very easy one to go into, especially within your family. Maybe mom or dad are making you mad about something. So you go to your brother or your sister and you talk about it. Maybe it's vice versa. You have a problem with your brother or sister and you go to one of your parents to talk about it. That doesn't fix the problem. All you're doing is causing more conflict. Go to that person directly, deal with it, we can move on. Another symptom, another sign of a lack of boundaries. And again, the book calls this, or titles this, Who's the Child Here Anyhow? 2 Corinthians 12, 14, and B. The second half of that verse. For the children ought not to lay up for the parents, but the parents for the children. Some people were born to take care of their parents. They didn't sign up for it, but they inherited it. These people are called codependent. Are the parents really in need, or just being irresponsible, demanding, maybe acting like martyrs? If they are really in need, do you have the proper boundaries in place to determine what you can give and what you can't give? Good boundaries prevent resentment. Giving is good. Giving is of God. But make sure, however, that is the proper amount for your situation and for your resources. And again, we talked about that some. Some of us have issues with parents, that parents rely on us for different things. Maybe it's not you relying on them for stuff, but maybe your parents never had to grow up and be an adult themselves, as crazy as that sounds. Make sure you are not feeding that into your parents. Don't be that hindrance from keeping your parents from growing like they need to as well. And again, there are situations where, we have to take care of our parents, usually for health reasons. Again, there's a couple of guys in our class who their dad has some major health problems, and so they're very involved, and they're working on actually moving them here to Arizona, so they'll be closer to them and help take care of them easier. There's obviously a need for that, but most people that are in our group aren't in that case. If you feel the need where you have to help your parents, take care of things for your parents, you probably have a boundary problem. So those are just 5 things, that specific examples. Maybe you relate to one of them, maybe you relate to 3 of them. Hopefully you don't relate to all 5 of them. If you do, definitely call me. Let's figure some things out. But those are definitely some signs that there's a lack of boundary problems. Why do we do these things? Why do we have boundary problems? Where did they come from? How are they created? That's the next step through this book. And ultimately, when it comes to our family, most of the boundary problems that we have, it's just a continuation of old boundary problems from us as a child, things that we've developed growing up. The patterns you learn at home growing up are continued into adulthood with the same players. The lack of consequences for irresponsible behavior, a lack of confrontation, a lack of limits. Maybe it's taking responsibility for others instead of yourself, giving out of compulsion and resentment. Maybe it's envy, passivity, or secrecy. These patterns are not new, they've just never been confronted and repented of. If not properly dealt with, your family can quickly cause you to turn back to these old patterns. The first step in establishing boundaries is becoming aware of old family patterns that you continue in the present. None of us have to be a product of our environment. And again, that's one thing that I've really talked about in our class a few times. One of my big pet peeves is nobody is unable to change. I hear a lot of people say that over the years. I'm just a product of my environment. I can't change. This is how I've always been. This is a result of my parents are this way, their parents were that way, and I'm just that way. I can't change. You're lying to yourself. You are. That's just a huge fallacy that we give ourselves, an excuse we give ourselves to not do what's right. And a perfect example that I give people is actually with my parents. Both of my parents grew up in alcoholic homes. My mom grew up in a very abusive home, and she had 8 brothers and sisters, all of them physically abused, verbally abused. It was just a terrible environment that no child should have to grow up in. My dad also grew up in an alcoholic home, but it was a little bit different. It wasn't a verbal abuse or physical abuse, but it was more, he had no relationship with his dad because his dad was always gone. He worked in a bar, and his life revolved around alcohol. So 2 different consequences for it, but both with the same symptom from alcohol. I have never, in my 41 plus years of living, I've never seen either of my parents take a drink of alcohol. Alcohol has never been a problem in my life, coming from my parents or anything like that. They both had an environment surrounded by alcohol, yet they both made a choice. They set a boundary that alcohol wasn't going to be a part of their lives. And to this day, neither my mom or my dad have ever had a problem with alcohol. So I've seen that firsthand, and I've talked to a lot of people who have changed. You see this in athletes all the time, people who are successful as a professional athlete in the NBA, Major League Baseball, the NFL, even NHL. You grow up in the slums, you grow up in the hood, you grow up wherever, but now you're making something out of your life because you don't want this life for yourself anymore, for your family, for your kids. Don't tell me you can't change because you're a product of your environment. You are lying to yourself. You've got to get past that. You can change, And there's a lot of areas that we need to change so that we can continue to grow, so that we can be in the right position to serve and honor God the way we need to. A big step of that is understanding, okay, this is where the boundaries were formed, or the lack of boundaries started, where the lack of boundaries were formed. But how do we move forward from that? Where can we go with that? If you go into the mindset of this next point, it'll really help you get past this and just getting in your mind, okay, I don't have to do this. And that's through the concept of adoption. If you are saved, if you are in God's family, God has adopted you. You have a new family. If you're not saved, if you're watching this video and maybe you don't know what that means to be saved, reach out to us. Call the office, talk to Pastor Lopez, talk to any of the staff, ask for my information to reach out to me. I'd love to talk with you. But God wants to adopt you into his family. A major step in growing up is coming out from under parental authority and putting yourself under God's authority. Galatians 4, 1 through 7, several verses here. So as I read them, just bear with me. Now I say that the heir, as long as he is a child, differeth nothing from a servant, though he be Lord of all, but is under tutors and governors until the time appointed of the Father. Even so we, when we were children, were in bondage under the elements of the world. But when the fullness of the time was come, God sent forth his Son, made of a woman, made under the law, to redeem them that were under the law, that we might receive the adoption of sons. God is telling us our parents have a place over our lives. They are our God-given authority. But as we move into adulthood, our authority should shift from our parents to God. Obviously, parents will still have a place of authority. You still have to honor your parents. They still hopefully will be giving you advice and offering help and things like that. But God should be our ultimate authority. As adults, God should be our only authority. Many times we are not obeying the word of God because we have not spiritually left home. In no way am I saying we shouldn't rely on our parents for anything, but ask yourself 2 questions. Do these relationships keep you from doing the right thing in any situation? And 2, have we really become an adult in relation to our family? If we are not subject to guardians or trustees or your parents as adults, we have control over our own will, subject to, hopefully, our Heavenly Father. Again, if you look under the mindset of, I'm not under my family's direction, I am now under God's direction, you can set boundaries that God will give you, that God will show you, give you wisdom on where to set, how to implement, and you can move forward becoming an adult. So we talked about symptoms, signs of boundaries. Hopefully watching this, you've been able to think of some areas that, you know what, I have a problem with my family in these areas. Maybe there's a situation when you do go home, if they're out of state and you go home on vacation, or maybe you live at home still, but there's certain situations, certain scenarios that you find yourself in, and when you leave that situation, something's not right. You're bitter, you're upset, you're angry, you're discouraged, whatever it is, there's boundary problems. Hopefully you've been able to identify some of those things, but understanding we are adopted into God's family. This family doesn't need to control us like that anymore. God needs to control us, and God's not going to control you through discouragement, through anger, through bitterness, through resentment. He's not. So understanding that concept of adoption is huge. So how do we resolve these boundaries? Resolution of boundary problems within the family. First of all, you have to identify the symptom. Those things that we talked about in step 1. Look at your life situation and see where boundary problems exist with your family. Ask yourself, where have I lost control of my property? Again, just understanding those situations, not necessarily about your property necessarily. Maybe it is a physical property thing, but just emotionally, mentally, spiritually, are you being fed through your family, or is it hindering you in some way? Find what those symptoms are, identify what those symptoms are, and we can move on to the next step, which is identifying the conflict. Discover what dynamic is being played out. Is it triangulation? Is it a lack of responsibility for yourself? Or over responsibility for your parents or for your siblings. You cannot stop acting out a specific dynamic until you understand what you're doing. See yourself as the problem and find those boundary violations. Again, you understand what the symptoms are. Now take that next step. Okay, where are these symptoms coming from? Identify where that conflict is at, what relationship it is that's causing these symptoms. The next thing you need to do is identify the need that drives the conflict. Again, we just keep driving a little bit. Last week I talked about giving yourself a roadmap. How do you get somewhere in life? Give yourself a detailed roadmap. Know where you're going to go and how you're going to get there. It's the same thing with conflict resolution. You've got to understand the symptom. You got to understand what causes the symptom. Now understand what's driving the need to put up with that. Why can we not establish a boundary? We do not act in an appropriate way for no reason. Maybe we're still entangled because of a need to be loved. Maybe it's a need for approval or just to be accepted by our family member. We must face this deficit and accept that it can only be met in our new family of God. Whatever that need is with your family, like I said, looking for love, looking for acceptance. God loves you. God accepts you. He wants you to come as you are. And yes, there are things that hopefully we will change because we love God and we want to honor God. But don't do it because of your family. Don't do things to try to pacify your family's lack of boundaries by not having boundaries of your own. So identify the need that drives the conflict. Again, we're digging a little bit deeper, and it gets tougher. The more you dig, it's going to take a lot of self-reflection, but keep digging, get to the root of these problems. The next step is take in and receive the good. It's not enough to understand your need. You must get it met. God is willing to meet your needs through his people, but we must humble ourselves, reach out to a good support system like the Yaks, and take in the good that God wants to give us. You know, I've heard this a couple times growing up, but if my leg is on fire, what good does it do for me to tell you my leg is on fire? No, you're freaking out, you're panicking, you're putting the fire out, you're going to take care of the problem, right? Why is this any different than that? It doesn't do any good just to identify it. If you know there's a problem, why let it persist? Now let's move forward and fix the problem. Take in and receive the good. God wants to guide, God wants to direct and help you fix all of these boundary problems. Use the Bible, spend time in prayer, let God give you wisdom, let God guide you in each of these situations and scenarios that you might find yourself in. The next thing is practice boundary skills. Like everything in life, practice. If you have a major boundary problem and you know it's a major boundary problem, you know, maybe you haven't talked to your parents in years. Maybe you haven't talked to a brother or sister in years. Maybe it's extended family, but you know there's a boundary problem. You know it's a huge issue and it has to be resolved. I would recommend not making that your first attempt at setting a boundary. Practice your boundary setting skills. Your skills, as you start setting boundary skills for the first time, they're going to be fragile. They're going to be new. Practice them in situations where they will be honored and respected. Begin saying no to people in your support group who will love and respect your boundaries. Again, it goes back to constructive criticism. If you can't give constructive criticism to somebody, if it's not going to be received, if it's going to cause problems, is that somebody that you really want to be close with? Whether it be a friend, you know, there are some situations out of your control, a coworker, a colleague, your family members, technically they are out of your control. But your relationship can vary based on these things. But if they're not open to constructive criticism, if you're not open to constructive criticism, how can you have a good relationship with somebody? You're not going to grow. You need people in your lives who are going to help you move forward in your life. Practice your boundary skills with them. Again, the Yaks is a great place to practice boundary setting skills. I know we've had issues within our group over the last 4+ years since Kathy and I have been leading the Yaks where boundaries have had to be put into place. And it doesn't mean it's easy. There are feelings that will get hurt. People might get upset, but ultimately we need to move on. And if the problem is with you, humble yourself. Step one, understanding that You have problems. But also understanding everybody else does too. Nobody's immune to that. But practice those boundary skills on the people that you know will receive it okay. Even if it's hard initially, ultimately you're going to be okay. Set the skills there. Set the boundaries there. Maybe you have a roommate, whether it be, I know we've got people that live with their cousins. We've got people who live at home still with parents. Maybe it is in the Yaks group, but find situations where you can implement small boundaries and start having small confrontations. I don't want to say conflict, but confrontations of, hey, this is an issue. This is a problem. Let's fix this. Let's work on this. Let's change these things. Let's work together and make this better for all of us. But take those small situations first before you try to address the major problems. The next step is say no to the bad. In addition to practicing new skills in safe situations, avoid hurtful situations. Avoid people who have abused and controlled you in the past. When you think you're ready to reestablish a relationship with someone who has been abusive and controlling in the past, be confident and know you are following God's direction and setting boundaries. But be careful not to get sucked back into your controlling situation again because of your desire for reconciliation. It's very easy to form new habits and create new habits and move on from things that we grew up with our childhood. But maybe you notice when you go back home for vacation and you go spend a week or two with your family that some of these bad habits come back into place. Or maybe at the end of vacation, you're feeling resentment for different things and bitterness over certain things. Those are boundary issues. Don't get sucked into those things. Say no to situations that you know are going to be hurtful to you. If you go out with a brother or a sister, you go somewhere, you do something that you know is not right, but you just do it because they make you feel guilty. You know, this is our family time. This is what we do. Just say no. Avoid that temptation. Set yourself up for success. Say no to the bad. The next thing, and this is probably the hardest one, I think, for most people, forgive the aggressor. Forgiveness. I mean, again, the Bible talks so much about forgiveness. Nothing clarifies boundaries more than forgiveness. To forgive others means letting them off the hook or canceling a debt they owe you. A lack of forgiveness keeps you tied to that person forever. It is much better to receive grace from God, who has something to give, and to forgive those who have no debt, no way to pay their debt. So receive from God, who's trying to give and give and give. Quit trying to take something from someone who doesn't want to give it to you. If you do not forgive, you are demanding something your offender does not choose to give, even if it's only confession of what they did. You know, I talk to people all the time on this as well. If you're upset about something, if somebody did something that bothers you over here, and you bring that home and now you're upset, the person who upset you probably isn't at home thinking, oh man, that person, I can't believe this, I can't believe that. Their life is going on as normal. Nothing's changed in their life. You're the one who's struggling. You're the one who's suffering right now. You've got to be able to forgive people. And so many times it's something so small, something so simple. So maybe it is something major. Maybe it is a big deal, whatever happened, you know, as a kid, maybe growing up. Forgive. God's forgiven us so much. We have no right to not forgive those around us. You cannot set an effective boundary if you're not willing to forgive those who have controlled you, who have hurt you in the past, who have maybe create difficult boundaries for you to overcome, or took away boundaries. Maybe they're trying to tear down your boundaries. Forgive them. Move on. Set those right boundaries moving forward. Another big step is respond. Don't react. When you react to something that someone says or does, you may have a problem with boundaries. If someone is able to cause havoc by doing or saying something, they have control of you at that point. When you respond, you remain in control with options and choices. The big difference between responding and reacting is choice. When you're reacting, they are in control. When you respond, you are in control. Keep control of your emotions. Don't just react. Don't blow up. Don't lose temper. Don't get angry. Control what your reaction is going to be. Respond. And it will help so many things. When I respond the right way, It helps Kathy respond the right way. It helps my kids respond the right way. When I react to whatever is going on, everybody's just blowing up. Everybody's getting mad at me because I'm mad at them. Nothing's getting resolved. So control your emotions. Don't react. Respond. And then the last thing here that the book mentions, learn to love in freedom and responsibility, not in guilt. The best boundaries are loving boundaries. The person who has to remain forever in a protective mode is losing out on love and freedom. Boundaries in no way mean to stop loving. They mean the exact opposite. You are gaining freedom to love because of your boundaries. It is good to sacrifice and to deny yourself for the sake of others, but you need boundaries to make that choice. I think everybody in our group, we all want to help each other. We want to be here to support each other. We want to help others move forward and grow. But in order to effectively do that, you have to have boundaries in place. Spend some time praying, spend some time reflecting on where issues might be in your life, within your family, where there's a lack of boundaries, or maybe the boundary is set in the wrong place. It's not easy, but it has to be done. Your relationship will be so much better with your family. Your relationship will be so much better with God if you have the proper boundaries in place. Father, we love you. And again, just so thankful for the guidance that you give us through your word. Father, the need that we have for boundaries in our life is very evident. And the problems that come through a lack of boundaries can be very overwhelming at times. But God, thank you for the direction that you give us. I pray that you will open our eyes to the areas that we might be struggling with. Open our eyes to things that we may not even realize are a problem. But God, give us wisdom, give us direction, give us guidance, help us to set up the boundaries as needed. Give us the boldness that we need to have hard conversations with some people, to the boldness to have a backbone and to stand firm when we do set a boundary. Don't let anybody try to tear that down. Let's not take it down for them, but no, we set it in place because you want us to have that boundary in place. Father, we love you and just so grateful for who you are. Thank you for the boundaries that you set with us. And I pray that you'll just help us to follow your leading, your guiding through these matters. In your name I pray. Amen. Once again, thanks for joining us. I'm not sure how many more weeks we'll be doing this, but if we do it another couple of weeks, keep joining us. And those of you who are in our YAC class, write things down, take notes. And when we do get back together, let's chat about it. If you have questions that you need help with right now, reach out to me. I'm here for you. I want to help out in any way I can. So take care and God bless.